The car is already half underwater when the engine dies, and the man is still laughing like it's a joke that will end. The woman opens her door and cold salt water climbs in faster than she can stand. They scramble onto the guardrail and watch their headlights vanish beneath black waves, realizing too late the road is gone. Somewhere behind them, something metallic clinks in the dark. A second car idles on the shoulder where no car should be, perfectly dry, perfectly still. Its windows are so dark they look painted on. A second car idles on the shoulder where no car should be, perfectly dry, perfectly still. Its windows are so dark they look painted on. The woman takes one step toward it, then stops when the interior light turns on by itself. Four shapes sit inside, motionless, facing forward. Wind shoves rain sideways and the light inside the other car goes out again, as if it never happened. The man decides they are walking, because standing here suddenly feels worse. They reach the beach house with the porch light dead and the front door unlocked, which is not how they left it. Inside, the air smells like wet rope and old metal. The generator fails on the second pull, and the silence that follows is too complete. Something taps once on the far wall, then doesn't do it again. They find wet footprints that do not match either of their shoes, leading toward the back hallway and stopping at a closed door. The woman touches the handle and pulls her hand back like it's hot. The door opens onto a narrow service corridor lined with old mirrors, and none of the reflections are in the right place. The man's reflection blinks before he does. A power surge snaps the lights on and off, and for a fraction of a second there are 4 more people standing between the mirrors. Then the corridor is empty again. They retreat outside to the fog and find the boardwalk closer than it should be, its rides creaking like tired bones. Footsteps move in the mist, always keeping the same distance. At the lifeguard station, a radio crackles to life with no voice, just breathing that is not quite in rhythm. The woman switches it off and the breathing continues anyway. Someone knocks once on the station door, patient and polite, then waits. The man answers with a flare gun he doesn't remember loading. When the door opens, 4 figures stand in a straight line, hands at their sides, faces hidden by shadow. They do not speak, but they breathe together. The fog thins just enough for the woman to see the first face, and it is her own, down to the scar. She steps back, and the other one steps forward. The man fires, the flare hisses past a shoulder, and the line breaks into a quiet walk that is not a chase. Doors unlock behind them in the house without being touched. They slam the door and run, but the windows show their living room already occupied. 4 silhouettes sit where their furniture should be. Keys jingle on the other side, slow and deliberate, and the lock turns with a sound that feels practiced. The man realizes the house has been waiting. They retreat into the mirror corridor again, and this time the reflections move first. One of them raises a hand and the woman's body answers without permission. Behind them, footsteps enter the house and spread out, unhurried, as if checking rooms they already know. The couple understands they are no longer hosts here. A hand grabs the man's shoulder from behind, but when he spins, nothing is there except his own reflection arriving a half-second late. The corridor lights die again, leaving only mirror glow. They push through the back door and run into fog that smells like salt and burned wire. Footsteps split, then rejoin, then split again around them. The man dives behind a ticket booth and hears the same dive land beside him. He doesn't look, and something doesn't breathe. The woman reaches the lifeguard station and slams the door, then sees a second hand already on the inside handle. The door does not open, but the handle turns anyway. She kicks the door and it swings free into a room that is empty except for wet footprints circling the desk. The radio clicks once, like a throat clearing. Outside, the man fires the flare into the fog, and it reveals 4 figures standing where he just was. The light goes out, and the distance closes. He runs toward the house because every other direction feels guided. Windows light up in sequence as if someone is walking room to room. The woman finds a locker in the station and squeezes inside, leaving the door ajar. Through the gap, she watches her own shoes walk past. Something sits down outside the locker and waits, close enough that she can hear fabric move. It never tries the handle. The man crashes through the house and locks a bedroom, then hears the lock on the other side answer him. 2 clicks, perfectly matched. He smashes the window and drops into wet sand, rolling, and comes up face to face with someone who already stood up. The other man has the same broken nose. They circle each other without sound, then move at once, mirroring until it becomes a collision. The first punch lands on both faces. The man breaks away and runs for the boat ramp, hearing his own footsteps chase him with better timing. The ramp lights flicker in a pattern he doesn't like. He dives into a skiff, shoves it free, and the engine catches on the 3rd try. Something heavy lands in the water behind him and swims without splashing. The woman kicks the locker door open and bolts, only to see the exit already blocked by her double. They do not touch, they simply trade places. She runs for the mirror corridor because she remembers it lying. The mirrors now show only one person, and it isn't always her. A handcuff snaps closed on her wrist from behind, and the chain is clipped to a pipe. The other woman steps into view and checks the fit. The skiff stalls in open water and the man slams the console, then feels weight on the stern. The other man climbs aboard without urgency. They struggle, slip, and trade places across the deck until the bat comes down. The man pushes, and the other goes into the water and does not resurface. He doesn't celebrate, because something hits the hull from below once, then stops. The engine restarts like it was waiting. In the corridor, the woman reaches a poker left by the fireplace and hooks it with her foot. The chain goes slack, and the pipe comes away from the wall. She runs and hears footsteps that stop when she stops, start when she starts. At the front door, 3 shadows wait and leave space for a 4th. The man beaches the skiff and sprints toward the house, seeing lights turn off ahead of him. He breaks a window and calls her name, which feels unsafe. They find each other in the living room and do not hug, because the room is already full of quiet. Upstairs, something drags a chair. They move together toward the stairs and see 2 bodies that look like discarded costumes. Beyond them, 2 figures play a slow, careful game. One of the upstairs figures rushes, and the woman swings, and the railing breaks. The body falls and does not get up. The second figure appears behind the man, and he fires the flare into its chest. It burns without screaming and keeps coming until it doesn't. They sit on the floor and try to listen to the house, and the house listens back. Every phone shows no service, then lights up with the same emergency alert. The alert shows roads cut, bridges closed, and dots appearing everywhere along the coast. The man decides they are leaving before the dots reach here. They drive until the road is blocked by a burning car and a line of smoke that feels deliberate. Something steps out of the firelight and waits. The woman gets out with the poker, and the man keeps the engine running. The figure tilts its head and drops a match. She sees the trick a moment before the fire reaches the fuel, and she shouts. The man reverses, and the other man mirrors him perfectly. The woman walks backward, and the other does too, step for step, until it backs into the burning car. It does not try to escape. They drive away with smoke behind them and do not talk about what they saw. On the horizon, silhouettes begin to connect, hand to hand. The road curves back toward the boardwalk they thought they left, and the fog opens like a curtain. The woman understands where the doors lead. They park near the lifeguard station and find a hatch they never noticed before. Cold air breathes up from it, steady and patient. Stairs descend into a wide corridor that smells of dust and metal, and the mirrors are back, cleaner than upstairs. Footsteps echo that are not theirs. Doors line the hall, each with a window, and behind some of them people stand very still. On one door, a drawing of a long chain is taped. At the far end, a classroom holds one woman who is not moving like the others. She holds something that looks like a key and a cuff. The woman steps forward, and the door closes behind them without a sound. The man realizes too late that the corridor has no corners to hide in. The room smells like chalk and old water, and the still woman finally turns. Her movements are careful, as if each one was practiced alone. She sets the cuffs and key on a desk and gestures toward the woman's wrist. The gesture is polite, almost formal. The man shifts his weight, and doors along the corridor answer with soft clicks. Figures appear in the windows and then look away. The still woman begins to move like a dancer warming up, slow and precise. The woman with the scar lifts the poker and waits. They circle, and every step is echoed by footsteps in the hall beyond the walls. The man realizes this room is a stage. The first strike misses by an inch, and the counter feels like a rehearsal of something older. The poker scrapes the floor and throws sparks. The still woman glides past and reaches for the cuffs, then withdraws her hand as if changing her mind. The door behind them unlocks and locks again. They trade places across the room, mirroring without touching, until the woman with the scar slips and catches herself on a chair. The chair breaks. The man tries the door and finds it sealed, then hears footsteps stacking up outside. He turns back to the fight because there is nothing else. The still woman suddenly rushes, faster than before, and the poker catches her shoulder. She does not fall, but she changes. They collide, grip, and separate, leaving blood on the floor in two matching arcs. The lights flicker in time with their breathing. The still woman retreats into the hall, and doors open for her as she passes. The woman with the scar follows, and the man follows her. They chase through mirrors that finally show the same person in every panel. The corridor seems longer than it was on the way in. The still woman leaps from one doorway to another and vanishes into a storage room. The woman with the scar goes in without waiting. Inside, racks of old uniforms sway, and the room smells like dust and oil. The door closes on its own. The still woman appears between the racks and swings the cuffs like a weight. The chain wraps a wrist and pulls. They fall together, hit the floor, and roll, and the poker skids out of reach. The man pounds on the door from the other side. The woman with the scar gets a hand free and grabs the chain, pulling the other close. For a moment they are face to face. She drives the broken end of a chair leg forward, and the still woman finally stops moving. The lights hold steady. The man forces the door, and the corridor answers with silence. Somewhere far away, many doors open at once. They do not wait to see who is coming and run back toward the stairs. The mirrors now show empty hallways behind them. They climb and reach the boardwalk, where the fog has thinned into a pale sheet. Across the planks, people stand in lines and hold hands. The lines stretch toward the horizon, unbroken, and some of the faces are familiar. None of them look at the couple. They move the other way, toward the car, stepping around abandoned shoes and phones. Sirens never get closer. At the road, the woman stops and looks back at the station hatch, then keeps walking. The man does not ask why. They drive through empty streets where lights change for no one. In shop windows, their reflections finally agree with their movements. A checkpoint stands abandoned, cones knocked over, radios hissing to themselves. The woman drives through without slowing. They pass more lines of people, hand in hand, stretching across fields and bridges. The man keeps his eyes on the road. The woman touches the chain mark on her wrist and then lets her hand fall. The car does not run out of fuel. They reach a hill and see the coast behind them connected by silhouettes. The pattern is complete. Neither of them speaks about the rooms, the mirrors, or the stage. The road opens inland. A single figure stands at a crossroads and then steps back into the dark before they arrive. The man does not slow. The woman closes her eyes for a count of 3 and opens them to the same road. This time, nothing has changed. They keep driving until the fog becomes only weather. The radio finds one clear station and plays music without words. Behind them, the coast holds its shape of lines and hands. Ahead, there are no shapes at all. They do not stop when the sun threatens to rise behind clouds. The man keeps both hands on the wheel. The woman finally leans her head back and breathes as if counting. The car continues. They pass a sign with a town name they do not recognize and keep going. No one follows. In the rearview mirror, the road is empty. The man does not look again. They drive until the coast is only a memory and the mirrors are only glass. Whatever was waiting there stays there. They stop only when the road becomes dry and the air loses its salt. The silence here feels earned, not waiting. The woman steps out and tests the ground with her boot, as if expecting it to move. It does not. They switch drivers without speaking and keep going inland. The sky stays heavy, but the fog does not follow. A small town appears with lights on and doors open, and no one in the streets. It feels like arriving after a storm that missed. They park near a closed diner and listen for footsteps that never come. The man finally turns the engine off. Inside, mirrors on the wall show only them, and they both watch the reflections behave. The woman exhales and does not rush it. They clean their hands in a sink that runs clear, and the water keeps running. No one knocks. The woman checks her wrist and finds only a bruise. She leaves the cuff mark unwrapped. They sit where they can see both exits and wait for the feeling to pass. It does, slowly. A radio here plays normal news that does not mention coasts or lines. The woman turns it down anyway. They decide not to say where they came from if anyone asks. The man writes nothing down. When they leave, the road signs point in too many directions, and all of them are fine. They choose one. They pass fields and quiet houses that look lived in. No silhouettes stand in lines. The woman finally closes her eyes and sleeps without counting. The man keeps driving. Hours later, the sky lightens but never clears. They stop for fuel and pay in cash. No one looks at them twice, and that feels like mercy. The woman buys water and nothing else. They leave before questions can start and do not look back. The mirrors in the car stay honest. Far behind them, the coast keeps its shape of hands, and that is all it keeps. Nothing follows. They agree without speaking that some doors are not for closing, only for leaving. The road remains open. By nightfall, they are just two people in a car, alive and unmirrored. The coast is gone, and it stays gone.